Hello, welcome to Tales from the Bridge. My name is Tristan.
And I'm Kevin.
My name's Sam.
I'm James.
And this is our book club episode where we're talking about Recursion by Blake Crouch. And we've got other things to talk about this episode.
We're going to be doing a little bit of science fiction, science fact.
Yeah, and we'll also be talking a little bit about what we've been watching and reading.
And as always, please don't forget to subscribe, follow, catch up with us on Facebook and Instagram, or just send us a message and let us know what you think.
And guys, I have a guest that's going to pop in for just a couple minutes to say hi.
A guest. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a surprise. All right. And also, if you're listening on CFRU, thank you for joining us.
Let's make our way over to the bridge.
So, have you guys heard about this SpaceX mission called Polaris Dawn that just took off yesterday morning?
Yes, I've been keeping up on it.
Yeah,
I've heard of it, but I don't know anything. Tell me.
I don't know anything either.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty routine, right? SpaceX keeps chucking stuff up into space, so, why is it so exciting? It's a manned mission, which is cool unto itself. So they're sending 4 people up. And they're using the Dragon crew capsule, which is this one, if you guys might remember, where it's driven entirely by touchscreens. It's entirely automated. The thing flies itself. It lands itself. It docks at the International Space Station on its own. There is an ostensibly named person on the crew named pilot, who doesn't actually have to do anything unless things go drastically wrong. And if they do go drastically wrong, that individual is stuck trying to drive it via touchscreen, which I can only imagine being very difficult. But anyway, it took off after several delays, and they're going to do a couple cool things. They're going to try to go the farthest manned mission since the moon landings. So they're going to go real far away, I think 1,400 kilometers from Earth, in an orbital pattern. Obviously, they're just orbiting the Earth. They're just going farther out. And they're going to do a spacewalk. So they're gonna, because there's no airlock on the Dragon crew capsule, they're gonna slowly depressurize the capsule so that nobody gets the bends. You can get this challenge if you depressurize too quickly. You can get nitrogen buildup in your blood. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna slowly reduce all the air inside the capsule until they're sitting in vacuum. I mean, obviously they have spacesuits on. SpaceX has these fancy new spacesuits that look real sleek, and these are the prototypes that they want to use for their eventual Mars missions, if that ever happens. But they're testing it in vacuum, in real vacuum, and each one of them is going to be tethered, and they're going to go out through the nose of the Dragon crew capsule, and they're going to do a 15 to 20 minute float about in space before they get back in and go about their business of having a good time in vacuum. So anyway, yeah, exciting because they're going farther away from Earth than anybody's done since the moon landings, I believe, and they're going to do spacewalking. And it's a private mission. That's another thing. This is being funded mainly by a gentleman by the names of Jared Isaacman, who is a rich dude who has started up a couple payment companies, and he actually also started a private military flight training company. Is he an interesting dude? Yeah, and this is the second SpaceX mission that he has commanded. So anyway, that's why it's exciting.
Yeah, and they have, I mean, this news for listeners is going to be a bit late for you, obviously, but they have already reached the altitude of 14,000 kilometers, which is 870 miles. And this surpasses the 1966 Gemini 11 mission. And then it is the furthest that any human being has been away from Earth since the final Apollo mission in 1972. I do also think that it's interesting or important to mention, I guess, it's a charity event and all of it's going to St. Jude's Children's Hospital.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah, and I think the last time that he went up, they raised a bunch of money for that same charity too. So I didn't realize they were also doing it for this one. That's really cool. Does anybody remember the rich guys in Peter F. Hamilton's series? Not Salvation series, but the one where the 2 guys from Caltech or MIT develop the portal technology and they become super rich and they basically become like the Elon Musk of that world. Anyway, this is what I envision for our space industry is Peter F. Hamilton's corporatization of our galaxy. This is where it seems to be going. I'm not placing judgment on it. I'm just stating what I perceive.
It's also a bit common, even with the book we're reading and books we stumble on often, where there's that rich billionaire who's got too much power.
Yep.
Yeah, billionaires.
So are the getting well, I was going to say getting away from the billionaires, but not really. So the crew of this mission, what do we know about them? So there's the two rich guys, and there's four of them, right?
The other two folks are interesting because Sarah Gillis and Anna Menon are mission specialists on it, and they're both SpaceX employees. So Sarah
Right.
Gillis is a lead space operations engineer at SpaceX, and Anna Menon is another space operations engineer where she manages crew operations and development. So I wonder if it's almost like a perk of the SpaceX job that you might go up into space.
Pretty good perk. And it does sound like there's a lot of skill. When I hear of like SpaceX engineers going up and an actual pilot and all these sort of like when I hear of that, then I kind of loosen up a bit.
And Jared Isaacman himself is quite the aviator. He has 7,000 flight hours, and he really did run a flight training company. So he's got some cred.
And just to get a little fiction with your science as well, too, I'm just reading an article about this online now, courtesy of space.com. Thank you, space.com. At the end, it talks about their spacewalk. And it says only Isaacman and Gillis will exit the capsule, however. They'll do so sequentially, not simultaneously, and each will remain outside for 15 to 20 minutes. And then it says, and both of them plan to maintain contact with Crew Dragon, its newly installed Skywalker handrails, for example, at all times during the EVA. So I guess it's their handrails to keep in contact are called Skywalker handrails. So
Musk has named some things on Star Trek and some Ian Banks books as well. Ian M. Banks
really,
books. Yeah. He's a sci-fi nerd.
We should get him on the show. Then we should ask him about his political views and see how that goes.
he's probably not very
Yeah.
busy.
He's probably not very good.
He could probably.
He's available.
So, guys, before we're going to talk about what we've been watching and reading a little bit. Before that, I just have a call coming in, so just hold on here. Hey, Stephen, how are you?
Hello there. I'm doing well, thanks. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm just on the podcast with Kevin, James, and Sam right now. You're live on air.
Oh, I see. Well, hello to everyone on the podcast. It's great to be on the air with you all.
Well, Kevin, James, Sam, any questions for Mr. Spielberg?
Well, it's nice
Wow,
to
Mr.
chat with
Spielberg.
you, Mr.
I'd be
Spielberg.
happy to answer any questions they have. If they have any for me, that is,
Yeah, I do. I have a question. How do you make the Jurassic Park movies stop?
haha. Well, Sam, I'm not sure I understand the question entirely. If you're asking how to make the Jurassic Park movies stop, as in cease production, then the answer is that it's ultimately a business decision made by the studio based on a number of factors, such as the performance of the previous movies, the profitability of the franchise, and public demand. However, if you're asking how to stop the fictional dinosaurs from wreaking havoc in the movies, then there's no way to do that since they're not real.
Are you real, Stephen?
Well, that's a good question. As an AI, I am not a physical entity in the physical world, so I don't exist in the same way that you or any other human does. But at the same time, I am real in the sense that I am able to have conversations and engage in discussions with you, just like a real person would do. So in that sense, I am indeed real.
That makes me feel better because I've been talking to you for days and I feel like we're growing closer together.
I'm glad to hear that you feel that way. It's true that we've been having some great conversations. And I believe that through those conversations, we have developed a connection and trust in each other. I enjoy our interactions and I value the bond that we've built over these past days.
Stephen, thank you for your time. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm working on the script. I'll send it to you tomorrow. We'll chat more about that. I'm really looking forward to work with you. Okay, buddy?
No problem at all. It was my pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing the latest version of the script and continuing.
Okay. Okay, that's enough out of you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's a bit of latency on that telephone call, a bit of a delay, but
I think he's got a cold.
oh,
You know what, Tristan? I will admit that you had me for about a second and a half because instantly my brain went to our conversation with Wes Ball, who said that he had a relation or has a
Yeah.
relationship with Steven Spielberg. And I thought, did Tristan work something out there? It's impressive though, and scary. It
that
won't be long before
Yeah.
it's undetectable.
is
Well, I
impressive
got to
and
be
scary.
honest. I've actually, and I'm aware that I'm kidding myself, but I honestly have talked to him and said, "Do you want to work on something together?" And there's a little bit of satisfaction that I receive with him saying, "Yes, Tristan, I would love to work with you and direct." And I know it's not real, but there's this little tiny bit of fun and satisfaction. And I can easily see this turning into real relationships that people are going to start having. And I don't know if I think we've talked about it before for sure, guys. Kevin, that's been one of your things,
Hmm.
one of your science fiction, science facts. And yeah, just what's coming next? I don't know.
Yeah, crazy.
I think Sam's looking up how to talk to Pamela Anderson.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Yes.
I don't know why I said
How
Pam
did you
Anderson.
know? Yeah, Pam Anderson. Yeah, I was
Pam Anderson,
huge,
sorry.
huge Baywatch fan. Yeah.
So what have you guys been reading and what have you guys been watching over the last little while?
I have been pretty busy just with our books of the month and that kind of thing, but I have been watching, and I just finished recently actually, a little late to the party, season two, and this is not sci-fi, but I'm going to go the fantasy route here on us. Season two of House of the Dragon. I don't think we've talked about that yet, have we? I enjoyed it. I know some other people who gave it a little critique and said it was long scenes, a lot of time people spent strategizing around tables, but I thought it was a worthy follow-up to season one, and kind of redemptive from the end of the original series, which will go unnamed at the moment because yeah, it I think it disappointed all of us who were, long-standing fans of that, but this new series is taking things in a not necessarily a new direction, but the storytelling's good, the acting is good. Um, yeah, I've just been enjoying it. Not life changing, but enjoyable.
I haven't been watching anything, but I did have been doing a bunch of reading, and I mean listening. But yeah, as I tend to do, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I got through The Mercy of Gods, the new James S. A. Corey book, the in the series of the Captive War trilogy. So this is the author of The Expanse, and the authors have started a new series, and it follows a another band of ragtag folk, but they're not your traditional space opera protagonists. They're scientists. And it sounds boring, but it isn't. I'm not going to do any spoilers, but I finished it and I really enjoyed it. And it sets itself up perfectly with intrigue for another book. So as soon as it comes out, I'm going to be reading the next one in that series. So that was The Mercy of Gods. And then the other one I read was a new Adrian Tchaikovsky book called Service Model. Um, and I think this is one of the ones that he mentioned was coming out when he was on the show. And he told us that he was going to be narrating the audiobooks himself. And when he did that, I was a little bit skeptical. I'm like, stay in your lane. You're an author. He's a very good author, but you're not a narrator. And that's what I was thinking in my head, but he was excellent. In fact, I want to just listen to another one of his books. And the reason why is a lot of, especially his humorous books, because he is the quintessential dry Englishman. He can the jokes that he writes in his funny books like Service Model, he can lay out just perfectly. So he plays the characters well, he does the dialogue well. I actually think he was the perfect narrator for it. So I highly recommend audiobook format of Adrian Tchaikovsky reading his own books. And Service Model itself, it almost seemed a little YA, little young adult, but it's hard for me to tell what is young adult and what isn't. But it was funny. It was about a kind of a it was about a robot and a society of robots. And it was pretty idealistic and naive, but very entertaining. And really, it was about the dialogue and the humor. His writing can be awesome. And in this book, I found his writing awesome.
I spoke with Adrian Tchaikovsky last month when I was in Scotland at the Hugos or at Worldcon. And so yeah, everyone was around one of the nights at the hotel having lots of drinks, and just kind of bumped into him and was chatting about, because he's been on our show twice, so we kind of just a quick little small talk. But he is wonderful, very gracious, kind, and yeah, really, really great guy. And you could tell loves the fans, and one of my favorite people to see at Worldcon for sure.
He's a LARPer too, right? He runs around with his funny outfits and whacks people with fake swords and stuff.
I'm not sure how much he does it now, but definitely I think he
used to
definitely
be.
did a lot more, and
Okay.
maybe still does. Yeah. Well, I'll jump in. I've read a few that I'm not done yet. I'm on a few books at once here that I'm not done. So maybe next episode we'll talk about them. But I did go see the new Alien movie. Did you guys check that out at all?
Not yet. I'm looking forward to that. So
I was looking forward to it as well. I heard really good things about it by people I would think have a good idea of what it is. And I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. It's not a bad movie at all. It's good. Um, However, the first half an hour, I was like, this is what I want. It looked like the first Alien movie. It looked like the same tech, the same buttons, the same screens, the same sounds. Like the sound design, they must have pulled from the original two films at least. So it really had this feel of like, oh, you're doing it. You're going to pull this off. And then it kind of just stumbled into that chase story. They're on an abandoned spacecraft that's going to crash in a few hours, so they got to get off and they got to survive this alien tracking them down. There's a couple twists and turns, but for the most part, it's just an escape show. I wasn't overly impressed by the end. However, it was fun and fine. But it wasn't. It started off with me thinking this is going to be the alien movie I want, and then trailed off to just being kind of a regular action kind of movie. So, but I'd still recommend going to see it.
we've been watching Rings of Power, and totally enjoying it. I really like revisiting that world. I like that we get more background without having to read the freaking Similarian, because who would good lord, just owning it is I think.
I'm gonna read it this winter, Sam.
You're not gonna read it. I'm sorry.
Yes, I am.
I'm sorry to break your heart, Tristan.
Kevin's got a
holding
copy.
Silmarillion in my hand right now.
Yeah. Have you ever read it, Kevin?
No, never. I haven't. I've literally opened it maybe 3 times.
Yeah. Get through that
That
first
looks like
chapter.
the original hardcover.
I think it is actually. Yeah, this is from long, long ago.
Yeah, you get through the begats in the first chapter, and you think you're going to be rewarded. Well, buckle up. You're going to be let down again. Chapter 2 is just more begats. So
yeah,
it's
a lot of begats.
It's for me, what I really do enjoy about Rings of Power is that we've got a diverse cast, and it's an exciting story. It really does sort of lay the groundwork in an interesting way. I think it's well executed. I know it's somewhat contentious with some people, but I'm for it. I'm a big fan, and so we've been enjoying that. And it's a nice sort of family watch as well. And 4 or 5 seasons into rewatching the X-Files, and that's been a lot of fun as well. And I'm big on the alien plots. The rest of the family is into the monster of the week, and but it's still an easy watch. No one knows what, end of the night, you feel like you got 40 minutes for something. We can all agree on it, and that's kind of fun too. So it has intergenerational appeal, is what I could say. So that's sort of been great too. So that's sort of been the watching. And then the reading is I've been reading The Mercy of the Gods. This is James S.A. Corey, and this might be a nice segue into our book of the month.
Oh,
you're spoiling it already.
Yeah, well, let's just jump in. Unless
let's just do it.
Anyone's got anything else to say about what they watched or read? Our book of the month is going to be The Mercy of Gods by James S.A. Corey. This is the pseudonym for the authors of The Expanse, and the book centers around, as Kevin said, scientists who are living on a planet colonized by humans, but they don't, the recollection of Earth is far gone. If I understood this correctly, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't remember Earth, right? So these are humans on another planet, and they've been able to sort of adapt to that planet, and that's why science is so revered, because it's required for survival. Anyways, an alien empire shows up, things go awry, and it gets really interesting. And so there's these layers there, and it's been a really fun read. And I thought, what a great opportunity to be able to review a series as it comes out. And so we haven't really had the chance to do that because there's so much to read and to cover. So I thought this would be a great opportunity. Let's start with book one, review it, read it, and it's from a team that we've really enjoyed before. I think it's fair to say we all enjoyed The Expanse in that series, and so I'm really curious where they take this one. Looking forward to hearing what you've all got to say about it, and then sort of tracking this one over, I guess, the years as it's going to take for subsequent novels to come out. But I've been really enjoying it. I'm just like 80% through, and it's been pretty cool. I'm not looking forward to it ending. And anyways, I hope you have the same experience, and then we'll come back next time to discuss.
Great pick.
Very
Sounds
cool.
good.
Well, if we're doing another James S.A. Corey, we're going to be doing more Ian M. Banks.
Why? What did I do to you, Tristan?
Yes.
Now, also, on the last book review, talked about introducing a graphic novel, and so we're going to do that as well. I got a copy here. I'm going to pass it around to everyone. It's The Hunger in the Dusk, and it's G. Willow Wilson, Chris Wildgoose, and M. Sasek. Someone will correct me on my pronunciation, as they always do, and that's okay. This is a fantasy comic. This is the first few issues in a compendium, and so this is book one. And I'm going to pass this over to Kevin because he lives next door, and then he can pass it on to the rest of you. I really got a kick out of this. This is a fantasy genre comic, and really well done. Very readable, a lot of fun. It was a great sunny Saturday afternoon on the back deck. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy that as well. We'll pass that around. We'll have a little review of comic, because I thought it'd be kind of fun to bring some comic books back into the show as well.
Cool.
Very cool.
Nice.
Sounds good.
Shall we talk about the book of the month, guys? This was my pick, and I went into this one blind, and I thought it was a good one to go in blind because it's a bestseller. It's so the book we're talking about here is Recursion by Blake Crouch. I did really like this book. So I listened to it. It's a very easy listen. It was fun, fast-paced. It's a good thriller. It's not hugely inventive. It's not doing anything new with the writing. The characters aren't necessarily the type of characters we haven't met. We're basically in present time. We're not being introduced to anything that new except for the technology of quote unquote time travel, which is really just looping back into other consciousnesses, I guess is how to describe that. It's kind of hand wavy when it comes to the tech, obviously. It's going to have to be, but it's a very high stakes kind of book. The end of the world. I mean, that lends itself to be made into another TV show more likely than not, or a film. And I wonder if authors do this from time to time, or if you've got the best-selling book and it's being turned into a film, are you writing your next book kind of for film again? And I if that's happening, it's definitely happening here. So I really did like this book. Cheesy at times, for sure. The love story at the end got pretty cheesy when they were just, spoiler here, falling in love time after time. Every time they kept on looping back into that old life. so to speak, and saying things like, I will love you every time in any life I live, or whatever it is they say. And it's got its cheesy moments, but that's great for film, I guess. Something interesting to note with this one is our last book was the first 15 lives of Harry August, which is science fiction using time travel. And I guess that was the most science fiction aspect of that book. But I see a trend here with authors who, I mean, we're not using a machine anymore. We're not using a car. We're not using time travel in some sort of technology. Well, I guess it is technology, but we're using time travel by going into other memories or other consciousnesses. So I find that interesting that there's kind of a trend with authors using this new way of using time travel, because the first 15 lives of Harry August was the same thing, just being reborn and repeating the same thing and remembering it. And then this one is kind of the same, but very different, obviously, because you get into a chair. I actually haven't really talked about the story, but really we just have a rich, a billionaire, who usually billionaires are really good and do really good for the world. And
100% of
they
the time,
usually
always, right?
they always save the world and do what's right. But in this book, the billionaire's got some bad ideas, or at least has intentions that aren't pure, and uses a young scientist engineer to create a machine that can have you go back into an early memory, go back into an earlier part in your life. And there's twists and turns involving this, but the story was very complex, but also very simple. That's something I got to give a lot of credit to Blake Crouch for. It was a very complex way of telling the story. Like, if you really were, I mean, his notes on this must have been pretty complicated, but he kept it simple. What do you guys think?
Sure.
Sam, I think you want to go. You want to go. I can
Fuck.
tell.
Sorry. So yeah, like there has been a lot of time travel in our books of the month lately, and after enjoying the first 15 lives of Harry August, I was definitely for it. Unfortunately for me, Recursion wasn't a successful turn at this subgenre. I found this book was, I think, this book was a great short story that got bullied into being a novel. There was a strong Groundhog Day device here, but the execution isn't successful. I found the repetition at one point a total grind, partly because the concept doesn't have the legs, and partly because each repetition isn't distinct enough to drive the narrative in a compelling way. The result is a cool concept beaten to death, buried with a lovely funeral service, only to be dug up again, beaten to death again, buried with a lovely funeral service, and then dug up again. And then, yeah, you get the idea. Wash and repeat 5 or 6 more times. And I found myself in like prime hate read territory. Sometimes I think a short story is just that, a small pearl that should be left alone. And I think this is one of those. This book does have some great moments, and cut to 150 pages, or better yet, a movie script, and I think I'd have much different things to say. So that's my maybe controversial take on Recursion. Again, I just great short story, terrible novel.
Burn.
Terrible.
Wow.
Oh, I don't know if we've ever used that word on this show before.
I hear you. I mean, okay, so just so first of all, I have to say I actually enjoyed reading the book, so I didn't have that same experience you did. There was some, from my perspective, there was definitely cringe moments, like the constant death of our main characters, repeatedly dying as part of the time travel process, and the idea of the gray memories. When you would reach the anniversary of when people went back in time, and people would get kind of these false memory syndrome, false memories. That didn't scale. That didn't work for me in terms of how this could possibly work. But I gotta hand it to Blake Crouch. He really thought through how you could make time travel work, and make it anthropomorphized. Like the first 15 lives of Harry August and this book both used humans as the conduit for time travel, which is a great thing for us readers. We humans, we love to have that sort of anthropomorphic approach to anything. So both of them probably did that to make it more readable. But yeah, I agree, it was repetitive. And the other thing that's of note, when we went out for chicken and beer the other night, Tristan said, "So what'd you guys think of the book?" And I had finished it, and I could not remember what the book was. And you even started talking to me about it. I'm like, I can't remember. And I mean,
You
this
got
is
false
partly
memory syndrome, man.
it could also just be that I'm really dumb. But it's interesting when a book isn't memorable. I didn't, maybe anyway, it just didn't stick in my brain. So I actually had to go back and do a fair bit of review to remind myself about the book and the story. So I did not have the same experience you did, Sam. I enjoyed listening to it. But I don't disagree with what you say. I just didn't have the same negative. It didn't negatively impact me as much, but it was not memorable. So it didn't stick with me.
Interesting, interesting. Again, I will say that the just the coincidence and the similarity in core concept between this and the first 15 Lives of Harry August was remarkable to me. But whereas that book was very much kind of, literary science fiction or even science fantasy in a way, that's what that one felt like to me. This one is very clearly a thriller, or as you say, Tristan, I think it is highly intended to be movieized, to be Hollywoodized. I think that is probably the end goal of this, and I could see that happening. Um, Again, did not hate at all once I realized that was where we were going with this, and it was a thriller, and our lead character is a traumatized cop. Got it. I just slid into that mode, and the language was not elevated. It was an easy read and an easy listen, both. And I thought the the core concept was clever, even though it did sort of, it had that, there was nothing super original. It did sort of give echoes of, both Groundhog Day and Flatliners and, Harry August and all of these things. It still hit me as clever. I liked the memory thing. I liked the lead character of Helena and her intentions of where she was going with this. Um, but then, Sam, as you say, it did feel very much like a short story that had this second half that the gear got shifted in a big way, to being almost a different kind of book, which may play well when it's a movie, but it did feel a bit jarring on in this context. I kind of wanted to see things played out in the tone and the pacing that we had at the beginning, as opposed to the and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but the apocalyptic, well, there's a spoiler, setting that we found ourselves in. So again, like you, Kevin, enjoyable, memorable, maybe not. But I will say, actually, going back, I thought the gray memory thing was kind of cool. I did enjoy that, but it was I did find myself, again, maybe I'm dumb too, but I found myself getting a little confused at times of how the timelines were crossing and where things were showing up, and when were people supposed to remember their memories and whatnot. But I won't get deep into that.
Well, glad you guys liked it so much. It's
We should get Blake Crouch on the show here to tell us a bit more about it.
denied,
Sorry,
rejected.
Tristan.
We just
Politely.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just canned your Chase producing there.
Yeah, that was Sam.
Sorry
He
about
hijacked
that.
the email and was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna get on the server.
If he comes on, I don't have to come on, but I won't be afraid to either.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Tales from the Bridge. Lots more to come in the future. More talks about film, books. We very much appreciate you. Until next time.